Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You staying dry out there? See? All the people at the Bug Tussle HOA, this is why I was building that ark in the backyard for the last few months. Right? Kept getting citations and whatnot. Who's the dumb one now? No, but we are in the rare situation here where I think most of the people listening right now are actually experiencing rain. We're all experiencing the same nasty weather event. Now, if you're actually in a dry area, count your blessings because there's not a whole lot of those left. But the reason I'm starting off the show with this is because right before the show started, just in the last hour or so, a lot of these weather watches and warnings have been upgraded. And so tornado watches for all of East Texas into North Louisiana, Southwest Arkansas, up above the border in Oklahoma, and then we're under flood warnings now in the two biggest counties here, Dallas County and Tarrant County. And these things aren't going to expire before the end of the show. In fact, it's probably going to get worse for most of us over the next hour or so. And then it'll probably subside about the time the James Show is ending. Unless you're far west, it'll still be, if you're on the west side of the storm. So where would that be? Yeah, if you're east of us, I was saying that backwards. It'll still probably be raining by the end of the show. But for right now, we are in it. And I'm in downtown Dallas, right next to the American Airlines Center. And it has been coming down hard for about 3-4 hours. I guess the real hard stuff started about 10 o'clock or 11 this morning. And then I didn't even want to walk outside to go to the store next door to get a Gatorade or anything. It's raining that bad. So be careful out there. Here's one thing I like. You may think, I hope I'm not annoying him with this, but I love it when you send in the pictures and the videos. Like someone sent me a really good video just from this was Jonathan. Where is he? Richardson? Yeah, check this out. I'm in Richardson right now. And you could just see these cars having to fjord through a street. The drainage cannot keep up with the rain. And so it looks like there's about, what was that, maybe 4 inches of water. There would be more, but once it gets over the curb, it kind of drains off a little easier. But you see these cars, they can't see the road at all. And even when the water covers the road, water's just transparent enough. I guess translucent is probably the better word, that you can still sort of see the stripes and whatnot. No, this is too deep to see the stripes. And so when they're going through, it kind of foams up in front of their bumper and makes that sort of mini surfer wave. And I think all you got to do is see the person in front of you survive it. And I know you've been told 1,000 times you shouldn't ever drive through standing water under no circumstances. But if the guy in front of you just did it and he's fine and he didn't get swept off into the ditch, then you go too, don't you? Don't lie. I know you're told, and I know you hear all the warnings. And when you hear about people on TV that get swept off in standing water, like, what idiot drives in standing water? Well, Jonathan just sent me a video of about 7 people. How do you talk the next 6 people out of it? If they see the one guy, and that's not a big, awesome car either. What is that, an Infiniti in Richardson? Go through that water. You'll make it. You'll make it too, especially if you're in a bigger car. And that's the fun part about seeing the big old trucks. People like to make fun of, who needs a truck that big? Well, look at the weather today. Wouldn't that kind of be nice? No one needs a truck that's tall. That's dangerous. You're compensating for something. You probably have small, what. Oh, really? Maybe I just don't want to get swept away in the flood like the Studley guy in the Prius over there. So yeah, send them in. James@WBAP.com is my email. But really, I get more of these messages through just regular old Facebook Messenger. So feel free to reach out however you want to get them in. Keep it right here. The weather's going to continue to be bad. For some of us, it's going to be worse over the next few hours. And we're going to take a focus on this until some of these warnings expire. Watch is one thing. I can ignore a watch. I can't ignore a warning. I would just be a bad guy. But when you look at the radar, there's a good one over at WBAP.com. I have actually thrown one up on the video stream where we put this show on multiple platforms that has the counties broken down by watches and warnings. And the worst of it right now seems to be, I would say, Hillsborough. And in Hill County there, they just came off a tornado warning right before the show started. But that only went down to a watch. And they also have Let's see. There's 40 alerts going on right now. It changes every 15 minutes. We have 5 flood watches. Everything east and southeast of here, going all the way down to almost Houston, is under a tornado watch. There's a whole lot of flood advisories, but the flood warnings, they have them broken down in areas that are smaller than county size, and so you can see these little parallelograms and patches and rhombuses, or is it rhombi, of where the really bad flooding is happening, and a lot of that is because we're along the river. But I'm in it right now. We're in it like where I'm broadcasting right now. Flood warning. I can look outside. Standing water in the streets. There's also some flash flood warnings out there. 7 of them. So be careful out there. If you were going to travel, check the maps. Depends on which direction you're going. On how bad it's going to be. Because there, like I said, there's a few places that are escaping it right now. If you're calling me from the far north and west of Fort Worth, you're probably okay a little bit, although you're still under some warnings. I don't see any active rain on you right now. So if you're traveling, check the weather. Keep it here. This is why we do the weather and the traffic and the news and Interrupt the James show on a regular basis, because it's part of the show. This is the super important stuff here. So be careful out there, and we'll keep an eye on it. And keep sending me the pictures and videos. I love seeing it. Coming up next, you're going to hear from a meteorologist at the National Weather Service and get a little deeper dive into how bad this weather is going to get and how long it's going to last. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Top stories, the weather out there, a lot of flash flooding already happening. Some tornado warnings have come and gone. Some are still hanging over us. Almost everyone listening right now is under some sort of watch or warning. And here to break it down, because you want to know two things. How bad's it going to get? How long is it going to last? Tom Bradshaw with the National Weather Service is on the James Show. And let's just start with those two basic questions, Tom. How bad's it going to get? How long is it going to last?
Well, it's good to be with you again. And fortunately, it looks like the bulk of it is past us. We had quite a bit of rainfall and a little bit of severe weather through the first several hours this morning and early this afternoon. Most of this rainfall is actually heading out of the Metroplex at the present time. We should see some diminishment in the rain and mostly ending by early evening. Maybe a little bit of additional rainfall for the eastern and southern parts of the Metroplex. We've already had anywhere from 2.5 to 5 inches of rain across most of the Metroplex so far today. So quite a bit of flash flooding across the area, unfortunately.
Well, I see on your maps from National Weather Service, there's one area that looks weird. Most of us are getting rain here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but if you go far to the northwest of us, sort of between Denton and Wichita Falls, they have no rain, but they have the biggest, widest flash flood warning. Explain that. No rain, but still floods.
Well, and actually, I think a lot of those have transitioned to what we call area flood warnings, and so those are not quite as high level in terms of severity as a flash flood warning. But the reason we kind of maintain those products is that even after the rain ends, there's still quite a bit of runoff, a lot of water that's still, running through the creeks and in many cases running across roads. So we run those advisories and warnings out for a few hours past the cessation of the rain, just to make sure folks can be safe and not run any water that's lingering after the storms are over.
All right. So are we done with rain when these storms stop, or do we have another band coming in behind it?
Well, it's not out of the question. We might have just a few storms later on tonight. There's a big upper-level storm system off to our west that still has to come through. But by and large, the bulk of it is past us now. We'll have a pretty decent day tomorrow, and then another round of rain, looks like Friday on into Friday night, early Saturday. So it's that time of the year right now. These systems are kind of coming and going at a pretty good clip.
Well, if I judge by the alerts and when they expire, for the people, most of the people listening right now, you should be in the clear by 8 p.m. Is that a good rule of thumb there?
That's definitely the case. In fact, I think for most of the area, it's going to be even earlier than that. We do have some watches that are lingering mainly to the east of the Metroplex and southeast. Still have some potential for severe weather down to the southeast, but for the most of the DFW area proper, like I say, the rain will be tapering off to the rest of the afternoon, and by evening, I think we should be in good shape.
So explain the difference between a flash flood warning and a flood advisory.
Well, a flash flood warning is more significant in terms of just warning for the potential of rapidly rising water that's moving quickly, water that truly has the potential to, sweep people off of roadways or whatnot, or get into homes. Area flood warnings are also, they're important. They serve an important purpose, but they're really kind of geared towards just advising people that water may be lingering in areas after the rain is over. People want to be aware of, any road closures that might still exist, that sort of thing. So they're more of an advisory type capacity, just to kind of keep people notified about where water may be impacting roads.
How much easier is it to keep track of this with the technology we have in 2025 than it was when you started, Tom Bradshaw from the National Weather Service?
Oh, wow. It's light years. I've been in this business 35 years, and I tell you, we've got much better radars, much better satellite. Obviously, we have the internet, social media, whatnot. We can get reports in, much quicker through a variety of channels. So it definitely is much easier. The models are much better, but there's still a lot of uncertainty in the science. There's still some curveballs that Mother Nature is still throwing at us.
Yeah, I remember because when I first started, we had like the radars and the internet existed and whatnot. But I remember around 2005, 2006-ish that the maps started being animated. And, we had enough, bandwidth to actually push animated images down these websites. And that was just like mind blowing. And then here we are 20 years beyond that. So you guys really have it nailed down to, I don't want to say an exact science because we're talking about the weather here, but these maps are so detailed. This is great.
Well, the visualization, thanks to computers, has obviously advanced dramatically. It's still an inexact science, but we're trying to get better with every passing system and every passing year.
Well, the reason I like it is because now the average person, everyone listening, has the tools to where if you're like, okay, am I going to go to this birthday party tonight, or am I going to go to my sister's house, or somebody's doing something later tonight, you can actually look on the map and see, well, they're talking about rain, but it's not going to be happening here. I see where it's at. It's all spread across. It's about 25 miles northwest of me, or wherever it is relative. And, you lessen the chance of interrupting someone's day unnecessarily.
Yeah, well, there's so much more information available out there, depending on the source that you want to choose from. So if you want to be educated about weather and fully informed, I mean, there's information out there to serve your purposes. And like you said, it can hopefully, help you with the decision making and limit false alarms and make life more efficient for yourself and safer for yourself, for sure.
All right. Well, fun times. Tom Bradshaw, I appreciate you helping out from the National Weather Service. And we do have some great maps on WBAP.com. We have a couple of weather pages there, but most of it is maps that we're aggregating from the National Weather Service. So thanks very much over there, Tom.
Hey, thank you. Take care.
All right. There he is, Tom Bradshaw, National Weather Service. Coming up next, I want to hear from you. Do you have some weather reports? Did you see anything interesting that's weather related? Did you see a car float off into the ditch, or do you have flash flooding in your area? The river came over and knocked out your neighbor's house. If you got any cool stories like that, we'll take independent weather reports. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'll give you some of my independent weather reports next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We are looking for freelance reporters. You ever dreamed of being on WBAP? You can call in right now with your weather report, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. If you're just joining us, the short version of the story, the TLDR, is that, yeah, it's raining pretty much everywhere. WBAP is being broadcasted right now. It's either just raining, or about to rain. There are watches and warnings all across our coverage area until you get about halfway to Abilene. There's the first dry patch where there's no county with a warning of some sort. And also, we should mostly be in the clear by about 8 o'clock. What are you seeing out there? 800-288-9227. This is Jack in Decatur. You're on WBAP. What's your weather report, Jack?
Hey, James. I'm on Texas 101 near the intersection of FM 3264. There's water over the road. We got TxDOT out here. I just saw a state trooper run through. It's not stopping traffic yet, but it's still rising.
So standing water in the road, is that what you're saying?
Uh,
I think we lost you for a second there. You with me?
Yeah, these country roads, the phone doesn't work real good.
There you go. You popped right back in. Okay, and you said this is Decatur where? 101?
It's on Texas 101 near the intersection of 3264.
Okay. Great. I appreciate the weather report. That's Jack in Decatur. Thank you, sir. All right. If you have any reports that you think would help out your fellow WBAP listener, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Some of the reports I'm getting in the background over here, there was standing water in the frontage road off of 75 in Richardson. Quick weather report from a guy named Rich in Wills Point, just south of Lake Tawakoni. In Wills Point, rain started 12:30. Within an hour, they'd already gotten 2.5 inches of rain. Currently, they're at 3.1 inches of rain. And oh, check it out. He has some sort of weather instrument. It's detected 2,458 lightning strikes in the area since the storms began moving in. Thank you very much, Rich in Wills Point, a little freelance meteorologist there. For my weather report, here's how bad the weather was. I actually got in my car and drove to lunch. That's how bad the weather is in downtown Dallas. Once I get down here, I love being able to just walk around, and there's a whole bunch of restaurants that are within walking distance. So my lunch is like a little adventure. You know, for a country bumpkin, this is like living in the Jetsons. And it's so bad. I actually had to take my car to a drive-through, which you have to go pretty far to get to a drive-through around here. There's not a drive-through in walking distance. But I can't get to my car. Like, there's a Jimmy John's on the next block over. We're at the American Airlines Center, so if you're familiar with this whole Victory Park setup. If I did want to take my car, I would take my car, like 2 blocks down, have to park in another garage because Jimmy John's doesn't have parking out front. And then I would have to walk from that garage to Jimmy John's anyway, so it's kind of a wash. Like, I think it's about the same distance from my garage. But it makes you really value your car. You know, these people that want you to ride in DART or want you to ride in the bicycle lane. What about days like today? You know how many people were in the bicycle lane today? I want you to go way out on a limb and guess how many bicycles I have seen in the bicycle lane today.
1,000,000,400,000,600,000,000,000.
No, it's less than that. It's actually zero. Thank you very much. 100% zero. That doesn't even make sense. 100% zero. So remember that for all you people who are like, we need to extend the new DART rail. They're starting the Silver Line. They're testing the new Silver Line this week. We should do this all the way to Houston. No, you know how awesome it is being in your car? I've done this. I have lived in Dallas and relied on public transportation and know how bad how terrible life is when it rains. How are you going to go to the grocery store in weather like this? How are you going to go? You're going to walk from the bus station to the grocery store? You're going to get soaked? Do you have a poncho on you at all times? Do you run around in that sort of big old cloak like you're on Lord of the Rings, big waterproof cloak? Is that what you have? No, you get rained on, and all your food gets rained on while you walk to the grocery store, while you get your food, while you walk from the grocery store to the bus stop, and then you get a little bit of respite while you're actually on the stinky, smelly bus with the crazy homeless people and the other losers in society like yourself, like me. had AIDS, 20 whatever. And then you got to walk to your house from the bus stop. So you're totally soaked. Your groceries are ruined. Everything's wet. It's terrible. This is a great example on why I just rail against bike lanes and DART buses and DART trains. It's a terrible life you're pushing people in because wouldn't you rather have a car? Isn't that the amazing thing about a car? It's waterproof. You are now impervious to the weather, even when you're outside. This is Dane in Emory. You have a weather report.
Yes, I do, James. I'm just going to let you know that it is pouring down rain here in Emory.
Okay. Do you have standing water? Do you have any more details other than pouring rain?
We have a little bit of standing water on the parking lot here on the party complex.
Yeah, that's when it gets bad. That's when people start having problems. All right, and you're over in for those of you not familiar, Emory is East Texas, and you guys are actually about to get more of the storms because the stuff that's raining on us now will be raining on you in about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at my iPad, and I'm seeing the radar and everything. I'm like, oh boy, we're going to get more.
Yeah, and so I think you people right now have already gotten quite a bit, but you're the ones that are probably going to have bigger problems than we have over here in Dallas and Fort Worth because it's going to continue for you after it stops. For us,
you be careful going home now.
yeah, I might just stay here until it blows over. I'm kind of a big baby about driving in bad weather.
Well, I just wanted to give you a report, and you have a good day now.
That's a great report, Dane in Emory. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. If you want to call in with your freelance WBAP weather report, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. All right, I'll keep you updated on the weather, and we'll talk to RT Trevino from the Crude Truth podcast about what's going on with the price of gas, price of oil industry, tariffs, all that coming up next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We'll continue to watch the weather for you, and as things are updated, we'll be sure to pass it along, so keep it here for that. But my next guest, RT Trevino from the Crude Truth Podcast, is on the James Show, and let's take a look at what's going on with the oil patch, RT. Welcome back to the James Show.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope everybody's having a safe afternoon with all this rain.
Yeah, it happens. We're kind of used to it at some point, but let's talk about the oil patch here. How have y'all been affected by the tariffs, if at all?
Well, I just got done having a deep conversation about that today, and technically this may sound crazy, but the tariffs are actually not what we are concerned about right now in the oil and gas industry, especially in the oil patch. Right now, it's obviously the price of oil, which has averaged about $60 here over the last 2 weeks, as well as what OPEC continues to do as they continue to add more oil to the global production.
Well, is that up or down over the last couple of months?
We're down. The price of oil has gone down over the last few months as President Trump has come in with his drill baby drill, and he understands that in order to get inflation actually down and to get more Americans spending money, we have to cut our transportation costs, because that is what basically pays everything from point A to point B. Somebody has to pay that transportation cost. Now, production is up from OPEC. America is still the number one producer at 14 million barrels of oil a day. However, OPEC is going to be adding additional 2 million barrels to their production here over the next 18 months.
Well, when I look at the chart on the rig count, it has been incredibly steady over the last 3 to 5 years.
We've always been kind of here over the last several years at about that number that you see on the rig count. We do fluctuate basically between about 100 up, 100 down. So basically we have stayed steady. And what has really done a good job of that is oil and gas companies like ours at Pecos Country Operating and the majors, is we've really just kind of been playing the long game, doing our best to stay steady with our oil production and our development, and most importantly, to keep the price of oil at that 70, 75, but also keep good Americans in good paying jobs.
How low does it have to get before y'all start feeling the squeeze in the oil patch, RT?
Every company is different. On average, the oil and gas company likes to make 30% no matter what the price of oil is. Rhett Bennett, who is CEO at Black Mountain out of Fort Worth, wrote a good article about that. So for us at Pecos as a small independent, we can handle those lower prices because we really do a great job controlling our production and being able to get it to market when it best benefits us and our investors versus a publicly traded company that is required on a daily basis to sell to the refineries at specific prices.
We're talking with RT Trevino from the Crude Truth Podcast and Pecos Country Energy. Let's talk about the price of gas. If we've seen oil drop recently, should we expect it to drop at the pump soon?
We will, and I do believe we've already seen a little bit of that here over the last week, considering, again, prices have been low 70 for basically the whole month of April. Prices were below $70 oil. So I believe now here in the North Texas area, we've got gasoline less than $3, and even in some places I've seen diesel at less than $3 a gallon, which, well, again, is a great time because we're getting ready to get into summer, and we were already projected to have more people on the roads this year than years past, and this will just even get more people out there spending time with family and, more importantly, spending money, which then in return boosts the economy.
Well, RT Trevino, I saw a funny post online about a guy who had recently moved here a month ago from San Francisco, and he was over the moon about our energy prices. Not only did he pay less than $3 a gallon for gas when he's used to between $5 or $6, but also his electric bill for his apartment was only $80, and he said in San Francisco it was $300. So, having an energy-friendly state has its perks.
Absolutely. It's very important perks, and that's what we love here in Texas. And that's another thing you were asking about, the prices of oil and how we watch them here in Texas and how it affects us, that Texas is a very friendly state, and that's why Pecos, we like to drill here in Texas, where we know we've got a good economy and a great pro-oil state.
All right, RT Trevino, what's coming up on the Crude Truth podcast?
Oh my gosh, get ready. I've got the current land commissioner, Dr. Buckingham, coming on to talk about produced water and really how scary the water shortage will become in West Texas. And also former land commissioner, George P. Bush, will be coming on to talk about Trump's first 100 days. Very excited.
All right, this is RT Trevino. He hosts the Crude Truth podcast, his day job, Pecos Country Energy. Thank you very much for updating us on the oil patch, sir.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, the GDP number for the first quarter of 2025 came in this morning, and it's negative, and it's slightly negative. But does that mean we're in a recession? I'll explain why I don't think this is going to be the beginning of a recession coming up. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the weather. You stay dry, but we're going to take a look at the economy now because the number for the first quarter of 2025, the GDP number, came in, and it was negative. So what does this mean? Does this mean we're in the beginning of a recession? Because the layman's definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters with negative GDP growth. And so we already have one. The dastardly part about the recession is you can't actually identify it until you've already been in it for 7 months, because you have to have the quarter pass and then wait a month to get a reading, and then the next quarter pass, and then you wait a month to get a reading. So really, you can't even nail that you're in a recession until it's over. Like some of these recessions only last for 6-7 months or 4 months, or it's just a short contraction there. And so a lot of times you don't know until it's a very backward looking way to gauge this, but I mean, how else would you do it? So let's dig in the numbers here, because I'm going to make the case why I don't think this is the beginning of a recession, because that would mean we're in a recession right now. But GDP shrank 0.3% in the first quarter. That's not much. And so you also got to remember, well, is this because of the tariff thing? Well, the argument against that is the tariffs didn't start until April 2nd. The stock market dive because of the tariffs didn't start until April 2nd. And remember, this is the first quarter GDP number. So this is January, February, March. This is all before any of that. And this is all according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, their advanced estimate there. But some people are pointing out the fact that in the GDP calculations, if you have imports, that counts as a negative to your GDP. It's not actually a contraction here, but I guess the thought process is some wealth left our nation and we've got this product and we haven't done anything with it. So in the meantime, until it actually gets sold or turned into something better or resold or exported somewhere else, it's on the books as a negative. And because so many people who rely on imports saw the tariffs coming, because they were announced, it wasn't a surprise, we had plenty of warning, that the belief is enough businesses decided to front load, speed up their imports in that first quarter ahead of the tariff implementation, that artificially pushed the number somewhere into the negative. Well, that'll be easy to see if we get this tariff stuff done. If we start announcing tariff deals and new trade deals, immediately all that stuff turns around. Immediately, the way people have front-loaded GDP, or front-loaded their imports. Not only are they not going to want to front-load their imports anymore, they're probably going to have to pause on it because they've already front-loaded it. And so that should artificially push the number up for the quarter that you're sitting in right now. The Atlanta Fed, since we are a month into the second quarter already, they put out their prediction. I saw it on Zero Hedge this morning. The Atlanta Fed predicts growth this quarter. Right now, 2.4% growth. Now, consider the recession talk over, and if you were planning on a recession party, you might want to cancel that reservation here. But then there's always the political part around this, and we'll get to that. I just want to do the numbers before we got into something as tribal and emotional as the political context of all this. But you know what? Let's go ahead and jump into it. This morning, when the number came out that it was negative, your president wrote on Truth Social, Trump said, "This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in, and companies are starting to move into the USA in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we have to get rid of the Biden overhang." Well, there's no doubt that part of that is correct. If you're looking at the first quarter, the first 20 days of that was under President Biden. And so about a fourth of that quarter, a quarter of the quarter, really isn't his. But it's hard to say this isn't his economy. But this is a pattern you've noticed on both sides of the political aisle, going all the way back to the dinosaurs probably. If it's good, if the economy's good, you take credit for it. If the numbers are bad, you blame the other guy. And I have the Audiotron 3000 with numerous examples of this. In fact, we can go back in time. You want to go back to 2017? Yeah, so we go back to Garrett wants to go because he was in middle school or something like that. This is Obama first quarter number when it came in under Trump last time. Trump was bragging about it, and Obama was saying the opposite. No, this is my
And the
economy.
reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good because it was my economy.
And so the opposite happens when the numbers are bad.
Core GDP, and this is, you probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is the quarterly numbers. And we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country.
So what do you think? Is this Trump's economy? Is this Biden's economy? Is this some weird hybrid mix of the two? Do you think we're in a recession? I don't. I think the second quarter, I think the Atlanta Fed's probably pretty close to that number. And I don't think we're really going to know what the economy is going to do until either these trade deals are announced, canceled, or continue for months. These are very different forks in the same economic road. And anyone that's telling you with certainty that they know with certainty that hell yes, we're in a recession or hell no, we're in a recession is lying to you. They can't possibly know how this is all going to turn out. So if you hear a little uncertainty in my voice, that's because I'm being honest. I don't think we're in a recession, but nobody really knows how this is going to play out. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Scott Bushke, a business strategist, about small businesses that buy from China. Experts say 80% of them could die off if these Trump tariffs stay in effect. That's coming up on The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, the first quarter GDP numbers come out, and it's negative, 0.3, nothing catastrophic, nothing to set your hair on fire and run down the street about. But are you worried about the economy? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I bet you most people are not, but there's a lot of people out there with small businesses who are dependent on tariffs not going crazy. And a new report caught my attention because it said 80% of small businesses that buy from China could die because of Trump's tariffs. Let's ask my next guest about that. He's a business strategist. Scott Bushke's back on the James Show. Welcome, Scott. I mean, that sounds like a really high number, but I guess it's kind of believable if you take the worst case scenario that these 145% tariffs are just going to stay on indefinitely for years to come.
Yeah, you're right. I think if you thought that was going to be the case, obviously you'd have to make some moves and price increases and things along that line would have to be one of it. But I think you look at, if you look at COVID and you're in week 3 or 4 and had no idea what the future was going to be, probably people would have said very similar things. So the nice thing here is that from a political standpoint, they can take a stance, they can come up with a deal. There should be more control over the end in sight, and most folks are hopeful that the next couple of weeks and months that many of those will kind of take care of itself.
All right, so let's take the best case scenario. This all gets resolved tomorrow. What happens to the economy?
Yeah, I think it would be depending on what the deal is, but obviously the goal is that all of our trade agreements or many of our trade agreements will be better than what they have today, which would be better for America and better for the business owners. Again, part of this push, I think, is to try to get business owners to buy locally, buy from the United States made, and not have the pressures of tariffs. And I think that was a trend before all this tariff talk started, and it continues to be a trend. And obviously, that's been expedited. Is these poor business owners had just figured out their had just gone through COVID and had their supply chains turned upside down and got things organized again. And now all this comes in. The biggest danger is really the on and off again tariffs. Once they know what the numbers are, they're all smart, resilient people. They'll figure out ways to work around it. Who's going to eat the cost? Is it someone, their manufacturer in China? Is it the distributor? Is it them? Or can they find other countries to make their products? I think that's one of the biggest things we always talk about from a value standpoint is you have to have diversified customer base so that the tail's not wagging the dog. But also now, since COVID, you really have to have a diversified supplier base. And now it's not only okay to just have duplicate or 3 suppliers. Now they got to be in different countries. So it just continues to add to the complexities of these business owners and what they need to deal with.
So why China? Why are we so dependent on their labor force? There's another country that's adjacent to them that has 1 billion people, many of whom would like a middle-class job, who's snapping together parts and toys and iPhones and whatnot. Are we going to start seeing some of this stuff being sourced to India instead of China?
I think multiple countries, including India. Yes, I think I know folks that that's all they do is import items out of the country for the less expensive parts, for whatever it might be, from lawnmowers to toys to all kinds of different things. And China was such a difference, and they have so many people, and it was such a big trend that it was there, and it just became such a big thing. But yeah, no, you are definitely going to see, and this is even before again the tariffs, that people were going to India, they were going to Taiwan, they were going to Vietnam, they were going to all these other countries, Philippines, to try to find the same, that same opportunity where they can get a quality part made at a lower cost due to lower operating costs and lower payrolls.
All right, we're talking with Scott Bushke. You can find him at scottbushke.com. He's a business strategist, and you have a background in mergers and acquisitions. I've always thought that if we have this tariff problem persist for a long time, would we see the opposite, like the undoing of corporate inversions? You remember how that was so in style about 10 years ago, where like Burger King and a whole bunch of other countries merged with some company like in Canada or another country so they could move their corporate headquarters there to skirt some tax law or some tariff law or whatever. But it feels like some of that would be undone if we're going to put up big walls of tariffs.
Yeah, James, I think that's exactly right. I think they're trying to bring not only manufacture at home, but all of our big corporations back to the United States as well, and put together, whether it's the tariffs or tax codes that are beneficial or want to incentivize companies to work and bring more jobs back to the United States. So I think you're spot on with that statement.
So I think the other big question mark that we have that's probably going to be answered before the end of the year is the extension of the tax cuts. That's really important on an individual basis, but really I think there could be more room for a corporate tax cut. It got cut dramatically under Trump in the first go round. It seemed to have a positive impact. I'd be interested to see if it went even lower, because then we would be down in the level that of most of the countries we're competing against. We're still kind of high on that one.
Correct. Yeah, we are still high compared to a lot of our competitors out there. So yeah, you never know what can get through. Obviously, the federal bills have to get paid somehow, and if they can get more from different tariffs from other countries or different formats, it allows them to do different things. But yeah, if you can cut corporate taxes, that typically will drive more people to invest in assets, in equipment, and in people, and continue to grow their businesses, because they're giving less to the government so they can put more back into the business and continue to grow their companies.
All right, Scott Bushke, I appreciate your insight. Where do we find your work outside of WBAP?
You can reach out to at cornerstone-business.com or give us a call at 920-436-9890.
There he is, Scott Bushke from Cornerstone on the James Show. Are you worried about the economy? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I already told you I'm not worried about it. Maybe 5-10% at most worried about it. I think there's a greater than 50% chance that we are not in a recession and things are going pretty swimmingly here in the second quarter. But what do you think? 800-288-9227. I'll share some of the emails and Facebook messages I've been getting on this next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So keep it here because we're not done with the bad weather yet. In fact, I don't think we're really going to be in the clear for most of us until about 8 o'clock, but we'll have regular updates even after the James Show through the bad weather. We'll always be here, WBAP. So keep checking in on that, because if it's going to flare up again and we're going to have a bunch of tornadoes flying around and watches and warnings, you need to know about that kind of stuff. Our second biggest story of the day is what's going on with the economy. There's a lot of moving parts here. The biggest headline would be that this morning, the number for the GDP in the first quarter of 2025 was reported, and it's negative. Now, that's kind of a big deal if it turns out to be the beginning of a recession, with the layman's definition of a recession, 2 consecutive quarters with negative GDP growth. So this could be the start of a recession. This could be an understandable convulsion whenever you're having such big changes, like going from a Joe Biden presidency to a Trump 2.0 presidency. Trump was out on social media this morning saying this is Biden's economy, not Trump's. This is the Biden overhang, which... okay, there's a little bit to be said for that. This whole tariff stuff, remember, didn't start till April. April 2nd is when the tariffs came on and the stock market went into correction territory. But this is just for January, February, March. And yeah, the first 20 days, I guess, was technically under Biden. So we'll see. I'm pretty optimistic about it. In fact, even the Atlanta Fed is predicting a 2.4% growth for the quarter, and they say next quarter. It's the quarter we're in right now. It's the quarter that we're already 1/3 of the way through. The second quarter is April, May, June, and here we are on the doorstep of May. So there's only 2 more months that is going to be added to this calculation. And if things are going to continue as they are, I think we're going to be okay. Now, if the tariffs stay on for years to come, yeah, some of that is going to grind down on the economy. But I still stand by the prediction that these tariffs are just a negotiating tactic, and soon we're going to get some deals announced, and then we'll all be behind the tariffs, or the tariffs will be behind us, and we won't talk about it again this time next year. It'll just be completely done. If it works out great, he's not going to get credit for it. Don't get your hopes up. If it works out terrible, it's all you're going to hear about. So just get ready for that as well. Some feedback here on how do you think Trump's doing on the economy. David says, and this was in an email to james@wbap.com, said, I would give him a B-. He's doing a lot of things that are good for the country, but doing them through executive orders. He needs to push very hard to codify those. And look, that is probably the first, thank you, David, that is probably the first place you should look when you're trying to get out of this uncertainty. Because I know it sounds like I'm just straddling the fence, but saying, I don't know if we're in a recession, or we could be, we couldn't be. But the truth is nobody knows. And I'm really concerned about the people who are telling you they do know, because David's right. The big telltale sign is if all these DOGE cuts, if all these new trade agreements, if all these executive orders can be codified in a more permanent state by Congress. I am not too positive about that. Now, some of this stuff is politically popular, and I expect it to pass. I expect your tax cuts that are set to expire at the end of this year, I expect them to get extended. That's popular on both sides of the aisle. You can't find an argument against it that the American people could possibly support. So expect that good news to happen before the end of the year. But I don't know about these tariffs, because the report that Scott was talking about with Scott Bushke in the last segment could be correct. It's flawed like some of the global warming predictions, like, well, what if all of the ice caps melt? Then what happens to sea rise? Well, Miami will be underwater. New York City will be underwater. It'll be catastrophe. But that's not going to happen. So when we see the worst case scenarios, 80% of businesses could go under. Now, that makes a crazy headline, but you got to go dig in the nuance. It's not 80% of all businesses. It's not 80% of all small businesses. It's 80% of small businesses that rely on imports from specifically China. That's if the worst case scenario is that these 145% tariffs stay on for years to come. Yes, they will drown under the weight of the tariffs. But you can't even be sure of that prediction, because this may be resolved before the end of the week. And then that looks ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Then it's not going to be 80% of these small businesses dependent on imports from China are going under. It'll be more like the same natural rate of attrition that happened before the tariffs. It won't even be a noticeable difference. We're having all this consternation and all these negative headlines that are generated over predictions. That's not good. Roger also emailed in, James at WBAP.com. He gives him a B, but let me skip down to the negative part here. This is kind of a long one, but he says negative points. He underestimated the impact of Doge. He should have started the tariffs for products that are already produced in USA. Then he should have announced tariffs that will start in X years down the road, and that would have allowed for time for American companies to build and start new manufacturing. Well, Roger, some of that is already being addressed because we heard, I think that was yesterday, that an executive order exempting some of the auto parts has passed. And so the whole 145% on everything from China keeps getting whittled down. It's 145% on most stuff from China, as long as you're not in this industry, this industry, this industry, this industry, or this other industry, as long as you're not making airplane parts or car parts, because the problem came about, and many economic minds were pointing this out ahead of time, that, okay, what if there's a company that makes their cars in America, but they get some of their parts from China? They get like the dashboard set up from China, or they get the car seats from China, or they get some of the steel frame from China, or some of these other places that have giant tariffs on them. You're actually hurting a made in America company and punishing them, even though they have their manufacturing here, just like if they might as well just move their manufacturing overseas then. But he started exempting that. Okay, if you're making a car here in America and you get your seats from China, that will be exempt from the 145% tariff. It'll go back to whatever it was. I don't even know what that number is. But there's been a lightning pace change of the rules day to day. I don't expect you to keep up with all of it. I can't keep up with all of it. But we're going to talk to Jerry Reynolds from the Car Pro Show next. And we're going to hear his opinion. He's a guy who does spend a lot of time looking at this crucial industry when it comes to the tariff and China situation. Cars. Does he think there's going to be long-term price increases, long-term convulsions and shocks from the car industry based on the Trump tariffs? Find out in about 4 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, quick question, and you don't have to call in. You can just send me an email or a Facebook message. This isn't going to be for the radio show live on the air, but just someone answering me. Is the emoji with the two hands pushed together, is that for praying, like I'm praying for you, or is that a high five, like two different hands are coming together and it's like, hey, thanks, Dad, for letting me borrow a microphone? Because are you praying for my microphone? I don't know which one that means. All right. Back to reality here. So the top story of the day is the weather. Second biggest story is the economy, because a lot of this tariff talk and the negative GDP number, this is worth talking about because this affects your wallet. But let's go a little more into the weeds with this. We're nerds. We have a brain. This is a smart audience. This is a WBAP audience. We can talk about some of this nuance here. The auto tariffs. I'm trying hard to understand this, and Jerry Reynolds is going to help me out, starting out with this clip I pulled from the PBS News Hour. I pulled it this morning, but I think this was from yesterday, with an explanation of the auto tariffs.
Help us understand more about the exemptions the president announced today. How big of a break is this for automakers, especially when the broader 25% tariffs on imported parts and cars remains in effect?
Yeah, I think the impact is still a little bit uncertain. The automakers I talked to are still digesting it, but it's significant. We're not going to see, for instance, the 25% steel and aluminum tariffs, that they were going to be stacked on top of these 25% auto tariffs before this action today. That was going to be really painful for a lot of automakers, not just for finished cars, but for the parts they're bringing in from other countries. Then we'll also see a small rebate for these automakers on the tariffs they'll pay on a small amount of these parts coming in. So giving them a little bit of breathing room to hopefully reconfigure their supply chains to have more U.S. supply in their cars.
Now let's ask Jerry Reynolds. Does that all square with you? Is that a pretty good breakdown on PBS? I don't use him as a source a lot, but I kind of like that breakdown.
Yeah, they did a good job there. That's kind of what's going on, James, is, President Trump figured out a way that he could help the automakers, which he has a very good relationship with automakers. He's friends with the CEOs of all of them, and more so than any president I recall in my lifetime. So he listens to them, and they were really crying the blues over these tariffs. And so he figured out a way that he could keep the pressure on the other countries and the other car companies to build more cars here and build more parts here, but yet, give some relief to the automakers. And frankly, they were all figuring out how they could absorb those tariffs without raising the prices of cars substantially. And a lot of them have already said, even before yesterday's announcement, they'd already said, we're not going to raise prices on cars, and we're going to absorb it, at least for the short haul. And I took that to mean a year or more, which a lot of the car companies have already said. So good news there. I think that will help them, especially the car companies that build cars here in America, but most of their parts are sourced outside of America. They were really going to get hit, and this is going to give them some relief.
Well, I think a lot of people are learning that there's really no such thing as a car that's made in America. Even if the final product is assembled here, you're sourcing the seats from some country, the dashboard from another country, the wheels from another country, the tires from another country. So, made in America is not even really kind of a thing.
No, it's not. And you're absolutely right. The assembly plants are just that. They put parts together to make a car. And I think maybe one of the things that the president did not understand initially was that to build a plant that builds cars, or to build a big plant that makes parts, it takes years. It takes a minimum of 3 years, experts tell me, in the industry. So, they couldn't just turn the faucet on and say, okay, we're going to start building all the parts here.
Jerry Reynolds from the Car Pro Show. I hear that there's some factories that have been shut down that could come back online within a matter of months because our capacity has been diminished over the years. And there's some that's just waiting to be turned back on. Is that big enough to make a dent?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Toyota had excess capacity available to build the RAV4, which is the number one selling SUV in America and has been for many years. but they were building a lot of them outside the borders of the U.S. because of the labor cost being so much cheaper. In Mexico, Ford built a lot of their most popular vehicles in Mexico, the Ford Maverick. Ford also builds the number one selling vehicle overall in America, the F-150 in Canada. So, yeah, the labor cost was a huge thing, and that's one of the reasons that these car companies left America to begin with. And there is capacity. They're going to, they can always add shifts and things like that. If it's a very popular SUV, like our plant here in Arlington, Texas, that builds the big GM plants, they're running 24/7, 7 days a week already. They can't do any more than that. But some of the other plants were underutilized, and we're going to see them come alive.
Well, I knew you'd have the answers to some of these questions. Thank you very much, Jerry Reynolds, the Car Pro Show. What are y'all talking about this weekend, Jerry?
Well, we're going to, of course, talk about tariffs. It'll be a new month by the time we get on the air Saturday. So I'll be looking at the incentives that are out there on these cars as inventory wanes and used car prices going up.
All right, Jerry Reynolds, Car Pro Show. Thank you very much, sir. Coming up next, there's a proposal in Austin to finally throw the Texas lottery in the ditch. I love that idea, and you'll hear why next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The Texas Lottery's on the chopping block. Should the Texas Lottery end? And I'm not talking we're going to have a philosophical discussion. It's actually been put to paper, and in the budget that was passed by the House, that still hasn't been approved by the Senate. So this isn't law just yet, but this is the closest you've seen it since the lottery was created, I think. But the line item where the lottery normally is, it got zeroed out. They just passed this budget because remember Brian Harrison was on 2 or 3 weeks ago griping about it. It was zeroed out. No lottery commission. So the program will be killed if the Texas Senate decides to keep that in their version of the budget. Now, if they come to a different decision, they'll have a conference committee and try and work it out, and we'll see. But the legislative session is supposed to end in early June, so we're going to have an answer on this in about 6 weeks. Granted, there's always the possibility of special sessions and things getting delayed and whatnot, but it looks like the inertia is for it to end. Now, for a lot of people, that's a little hard to comprehend. If you haven't been paying attention to the news, you might be saying, well, what's wrong with the lottery? Well, a lot's wrong with the lottery. For one thing, there has been some scandals around it. With the advent of everything being on an app these days, some of the lottery rules that were set up to prevent people from cheating the lottery, they've been given a bit of a workaround. So if you want to win the lottery, you buy 25 million tickets, you kind of have like a 1 in 4 chance of winning it. If you wait until the prizes are big enough, that's actually a worthwhile investment. So it's happened twice. We think that there have been, allegedly, reportedly, according to the Texas Rangers, Texas Attorney General, other law enforcement officers, that there have been electric lottery courier companies that have improperly rigged the system. And the way this works is if you wanted to get a lottery ticket machine, you could get one for if you had a corner store, if you had a convenience store or some other business where you think that would help out, you could order one. Now, the problem comes what if someone wants to order 2 because they have so much business, I guess? You really need 2 machines? Well, then if you wanted to rig the lottery, it would take you half as much time to do it because now you have 2 machines and you, instead of just getting 5 tickets at a time for the quick picks or whatever they would do, they could do it twice as fast. Well, if you're a courier service, the one thing that seems shady about it to begin with is it skirts around the rule against if you were going to buy like a 25 million lottery tickets, what are you going to do? Are you yourself going to put in all these numbers? Or are you going to get other people to go buy a bunch of them for you? Or are you going to get your own outfit and just try and do it electronically? Well, to get around that, there's a law that says you have to buy them in person. Okay. Well, now we have apps that say if you pay our courier, an in-person person will go down, buy your lottery tickets for you, scratch off for Lotto, and then deliver them to you like it's some sort of lottery DoorDash. So now we have a workaround to the person needing to be there. You have these courier services, and you also have an excuse for a business to say, well, we're a courier service. All we do is sell tickets, so we're going to need 20 machines. So now you have the ability to get those tickets in and out fast, all under the same house, all in the same room, under the same ownership or ownership group. And we think 2 payouts, one for $95 million, another for $83 million, were won when these electronic lottery courier services made themselves a bunch of tickets with their own machines and got it covered that way. So even if this is or is not true, I like the fact that the Texas Lottery could go away. I think it should go away. Now, there's a philosophical and a reality component to this. Philosophically, I support lotteries in principle, just not government lotteries. I believe you have the right to go sell tickets. It's kind of like a raffle. Every fundraiser you go to that has a raffle. Isn't that the same system? You give me $2 and $1 goes in the pot and $1 goes into the fund that you're servicing, either the charity or for Texas it would be education. But you could have like a charitable system like that, and maybe the money does go to charity. Maybe it does the same thing that the state does, but It's just in the private sector. Why not? Why not let these private companies make their living doing this instead of banning them and putting all under one government-controlled monopoly? Isn't that a little shady? Now, in the real world, my opinion of lottery shifts. I think they're kind of awful in reality because I think when they're in the hands of government, it gets really ugly because that money that's being split up between the pot and the people who are servicing the lottery itself goes to government. So money that goes from the citizen to the government is basically a tax. And so what you have here with the lottery being controlled by the government is a stupid tax. If you leave the lottery in the hands of the government, that's exactly what it becomes, a stupid tax. Because if anyone goes in there buying a lottery ticket thinking that they could win, boy, you're really living in fantasy because the lottery isn't selling you prizes. The lottery isn't selling you the pieces of paper. It's not selling you the scratch-off tickets. You know what it's selling you? It's selling you hope. If you've ever bought a lottery ticket, the fun part about buying the ticket is you have an excuse. You have something in your hand or in your pocket, and you can be like, what if I won $83 million? You know, I think, would I pay off my mortgage or would I immediately get a new house? Immediately get a new house. I'd buy all kinds of dumb cars. I'd finally get a boat. Oh man, I would have like a car that has all these nice things in it, like heated seats and self-driving, and all the windows would work properly. There wouldn't be any dents on my car. You know how good life would be if I won the lottery? That's what they're selling. That little conversation, that little internal monologue that you get to have with yourself, or even if you chat with your spouse. Me and Miss Parker love to fantasize about what would happen if we won the lottery. I mean, we would do some really stupid things with it, like the Buck Tussle High School would be the smallest school on planet Earth with a domed football stadium. I think, I wouldn't tell you I won the lottery, but there would be some pretty obvious signs. But in reality, it's dumb people that are buying the lottery tickets, most of them. And it's the people who can least afford it. And for the people who don't have the disposable income. And I don't know if it's sort of tied into a gambling addiction or sort of, they like that dopamine hit that you get when you get to have the little hopeful thoughts. Or maybe it's just people whose life is so devoid of hope. That's the only hope they get. 800-288-9227. The lottery may go away. Are you okay with that? I say yes. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to have another appearance from local political watchdog Dallas Enfuego discussing the local elections that are happening Saturday and really not getting too much into the nuts and bolts, but talking about some of the scandal and scuttlebutt around the candidates that might be on your ballot. Stick around. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners, you might want to check on your roof after these storms finish blowing over. If you have any doubt, if you're missing a shingle, if you have some water drips, or if you hear some funny noises, if there's a shadow of a doubt, you should call BlueRibbonDFW.com because the inspection, when they come out and get on your roof and check it out, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. There's no downside. There's only upside. If there is a problem, then boom, we get to catch it before it turns into an even bigger problem and the costs explode. If there's no problem, they high-five you and they leave you with the baseline of the inspection, some pictures and whatnot. So next time you do have a roof issue, there will be no problems with your insurance company understanding when this happened because you can prove, hey, I called Blue Ribbon Roofing back on April 30th and they came out and inspected me. And this is what they said it looked like. And so now, see, this is actually from that storm. And so it'll help you deal with future claims should you need one. Because on a long enough time scale, every house is going to need a new roof. The only question is, are you going to catch it before it gets bad? So go to BlueRibbonDFW.com. You'll be working with the family-owned business here in North Texas for 31 years. You just had a chance to meet John, Tish, and Trevor at WeatherCon last weekend, and they can come out and they can make that magic happen for you. And if you do need a new roof, mention that you heard it on The James Show, and you get a free Ridge Vent ventilation upgrade. BlueRibbonDFW.com. BlueRibbonDFW.com. I know, you're making me miss Dan Bongino when you do that. Dan Bongino. Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Returning to the show is local DFW watchdog Dallas Infuego to talk about some of the local elections that are happening on Saturday. You know, Dallas, I've had a few people reach out and say, I know nothing about what's going on Saturday. I don't even know what we're voting on. I don't know who are we voting on. Are we voting on things and stuff? So I think that's kind of our lane here at WBAP, that we got to fill that in just the next 3 days. What are some of the top line, big headline elections that people are going to go to the ballot for this weekend?
Well, first of all, I want to tell your listeners that aren't following the Dallas City Council election that this is really more exciting than March Madness, right? And you need, if you want to get plugged in, you got to follow me on X, Dallas Infuego on X, Dallas Infuego group on Facebook, on YouTube as well. That's how you're going to really learn everything that's going on. I'm posting regular videos about all this stuff.
Well, listen, one of the reasons I like having you on is because you take something that sounds boring, like, oh, a city council election. Who on earth could be interested in that? And you find some pretty interesting storylines that get people's attention. I'm interested.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You know, there's a few districts in the city that I think we should all be really paying attention to. District 1, we'll just go from lowest to highest. District 1's really interesting. Candidate Katrina Watley is sort of the Beyonce of D1, like, you know, say her name, you know. She's a survivor. She's crazy in love with Dallas. She's the president of a ladies club with 6,000 members who are energized. They've got a big heart for Dallas. You know, who runs the world? Girls. This race is personal for her. Chad West, her opponent, the incumbent, approved the construction of a multi-family home that is inches from her house, and people smoking throw cigarette butts off their balcony to land on a roof. So she's really PO'd, and she's very motivated. And, you know, I say that, like, hell hath no fury, like a woman who has made up her mind and whose nest is under attack.
So if you like it, then you better put a ring on it, huh?
You better put a ring on it. That's right, girl. You know, Chad West also voted against the neighbors in this big West Oak Cliff project recently. He's under investigation by the Texas Ethics Commission for using campaign funds at a bathhouse. You know,
that's the bathhouse guy. I follow you on Twitter and Facebook. You give this guy a hard time. Why do you give him the name Bathhouse again?
It's because he spent $139 of campaign funds at a bathhouse, and then he listed it as supplies on his donor report, on his expenditure report.
Well, look, if I support a candidate for office so much that I'm willing to donate my own hard-earned money to his cause, isn't that between me and him on whether or not he spends it at a bathhouse?
It's actually between him and the Texas Ethics Commission.
Okay.
I'm just the messenger, okay?
Right. I mean, this is all allegedly, reportedly. I mean, is this confirmed in any way, or do I need to put in the lawyer adjectives there or adverbs?
No, the investigation is confirmed.
Okay.
They accepted jurisdiction over it, so it's ongoing. But no, this is the reason why this is exciting is because it's a David and Goliath story. Chad is the most well-funded candidate on the council. He's over $200,000. But listen, there's nothing more powerful than an unwavering group of women who've made up their mind, and that's something money can't buy.
So, Dallas Infuego, do we have any other storylines in a Plano or Frisco or Fort Worth that reach the level of bathhouse intrigue?
You know something? I eventually want to expand my reach into these surrounding cities, but listen, I'm just one guy with a big heart and, you know, limited time, so I really can't get there yet.
Oh, you say that. You're being modest because I see you posting on about other cities from time to time. So, Dallas Infuego, one of the things that a lot of people find disconcerting about local elections is if you're in Dallas, what's the point? It's just going to be all Democrats anyway. Do Republicans have a chance of taking any of these seats?
Well, I'll be honest with you. This is a nonpartisan race, and the people who are running aren't really supposed to be touting whether or not they're on the left or the right side of the aisle. And
but
frankly,
we know.
I don't care. We know, but I honestly don't care because I just want people who aren't insane and who actually are smart. If we could get that, we would have a completely different city council. You know, we've got.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, let's get the insane out of the city council before we start to work on the nuance of policy position.
Please, I think that's the least we can do.
All right. So, any other storylines people need to know about before they get to the ballot box on Saturday?
Yeah, real quick. You know, District 7 is really interesting. Adam Balsadua went on Facebook Live this week and threw a fit. I don't know if he lost his binky or his wife took away his PlayStation, but he started ranting against the Dallas Police Association, which, for those who don't know, is the police union that previously endorsed him. And he was going off against them, saying they're corrupt, saying that they don't represent the police. And it's like breaking up with your girlfriend and saying, "I didn't even like you," while you're holding the playlist that you two made together. It's like, if this doesn't matter, why are you telling everybody about it on Facebook? So his opponent, Jose Rivas, is the guy to vote for. Now, this is personal because Jose is actually Baz's appointee to the Police Oversight Board, and Jose told Baz, "If you don't support police, if you don't support public safety, I'm going to run against you." And that's exactly what he did. So this is kind of a cage match. It's really exciting to see. So I'm really rooting for Jose here to come through.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. Dallas and Fuego, we're about out of time, but I appreciate it. You got to go look him up. He's on YouTube. He's on Facebook. He's on X/Twitter, whatever the cool kids are calling it these days. And there's not a whole lot of people who are watching DFW this closely. And he does it with a lot of humor and some really good animations. You're really good at video editing. What's your explanation for that?
Well, I've been working in media for over 20 years as an editor, professional film and TV editor. So that's the reason why.
Yeah, you're supposed to say, "I don't know. It's just a weird coincidence. I'm definitely not hiding under a fake name." All right. Thank you very much. There he is, Dallas and Fuego. Go look him up online, and you'll hear him on future shows. 800-288-9227. If you want to be after Matt in Colleyville, he's going to explain, he's going to ask some lottery questions. 800-288-9227. Do you have any concerns about the local elections coming up Saturday? I tell you what, I think the biggest issue that's going to be on anyone's ballot coming up Saturday next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services, coming back on the James Show, and you must be pretty happy these days because we had mentioned it on Monday's show. The DFW area had the most home sales closed in any large metropolitan area for March, setting the standard. We're the top hottest housing market in the country, so things must be pretty good out there.
They are, and I don't know if your board guy told you that I actually called in yesterday thinking that we were scheduled to chat, and I realized why I did that is because I had a call from one of your listeners that got me really pumped up, really excited. And we had a good long conversation, and it wasn't 5 minutes after that I called in to do our spot, and I said, your guy said, "No, you're not on today, Bob." But I was pumped up. I was excited. Ask me why.
Well, why? Did you make someone's dreams come true by getting them in an awesome house?
Actually, no, but I thought you'd never ask, so I thought I'd throw it out. No, the reason I was excited, James, is because this lady that we talked for 30 minutes informed me that she had talked to a couple realtors already. And, she heard things like she needed 20% to 30% down on her house. She told me the story about how they're living in an RV and had some bad things happen with the tornado that came through like February or so. And she was just pretty upset because they didn't have 20-30%. And I said, "Did anybody tell you that you can get in for like 3.5%?
Mm-hmm.
No, they told me I needed 20-30, and it just kind of blew me away that people still, obviously, I've been talking a long time, and folks just need to be educated about here's what the real deal is. And a nice couple like that to be held off. They've been in the same place for 3 years instead of having a home. So, it got me all excited.
Yeah, well, I hope people listening aren't delaying looking into a home because of one of these persistent myths. 'Cause they don't think they have enough for a down payment. They need 10-20%. No, I got into my first house for 3.5%. Bob gets veterans into houses or some other rural development loan, or there's other programs where sometimes you can get in for 0. So you don't know until you call. Call Bob, 972-392-9595. Call Home Marketing Services, 972-392-9595. There's blessyourheart.com or 972-392-9595. All right, go make it happen, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. A lot of changes happening. One of the things that I like on the chopping block down in Austin, I gripe about some of the terrible things they're doing this legislative session, but I saw that they had slipped in a line that would end the lottery commission, therefore ending the Texas lottery, the scratch off, the lotto, all that. I kind of like the sound of that. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Now, it hasn't passed yet, but I think definitely the Texas lottery was an experiment that proved to be an abysmal failure. Now it's corrupt, and pragmatically speaking, it has a terrible effect on the least among us. What do you think? Matt in Colleyville, you're on WBAP. What do you think about the lottery? Matt, you with me? Did I hit something wrong? Did you hit mute? Matt, did you mute me on your phone? Because I hear nothing. Well, what do I do?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Sorry. No, I guess I'm just failing to see the problem with them with purchasing lottery tickets online. It's not like the company is keeping a portion of your money. You know, when you win, it gets transferred to you directly. And I know, like, I don't play all the time, but when the jackpots get big, or when the jackpots got big, you know, I would make a family pool, and each of us would put in $5 and see what happens. You know, if we didn't win, we didn't. But I don't see why taking that away from those companies that were basically just supplying a service.
Well, the answer
all they were doing is.
The answer to a lot of these lottery questions is to prevent some sort of fraud or chicanery or criminal activity. In the same way that you can't buy a lottery ticket with a credit card, they want you to pay cash. Now, why would they do that? Well, there's some gambling addicts out there who would steal credit cards and they would use them to buy lottery tickets. And so they want to cut off that incentive for, you know, illegality. Also, the reason why they don't want you to be able to buy it online or when it started over the phone or whatnot is how do you keep children from buying lottery tickets if you can do it online? Also, how do you keep some sheik from Dubai from buying 25 million tickets and winning the damn thing out from under the feet of all of us? And he's not even a Texan or an American to begin with. How do you stop overseas bad actors, or bad actors within our own country? So that's usually the answer on some of those. Why do you have to be there in person to buy it? Why do you have to buy it with cash? Why are these lottery apps looked at a little askew? It's usually to prevent people from either trying to fraud the system or cheat the system or give themselves some sort of unfair advantage.
Right, but I'm saying, like, even the larger lotteries, you know, like Mega Millions or whatever. If you can afford to go buy all the tickets, stand there at the machine. I would rather pay the $1 convenience fee for someone else to do it, just so I don't have to go to the store to buy my ticket.
Yeah, but what happened with that is these courier services now had an excuse to start piling up, 20, 30 machines in a room, and now they have the facility which they can pull off the grift that they just did by buying $25 million worth of tickets.
But they're not getting the money. They're not getting the winnings. The winnings goes to the person who
the
bought
thought
the
process is for the two lotteries that were won by these courier services, or people that are adjacent to the courier services, I should say, is that's what they did. They used their position to cheat the lottery, and so they did cheat the lottery, or it looks like, allegedly, reportedly, until the lawyers figure it out, it looks like they were able to cheat the lottery by doing that.
I can't see by buying more tickets. Like, if I put a family pool together and 10 of us buy just $5 worth, instead of me going, hey, it's a big lottery, let's spend $20. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
This way I put in.
Okay, but
each of us put in $5, and hey, we won $10.
Right.
Well,
let me explain how this would get way out of hand. So if everyone, like here at WBAP, everyone gave me $5 and I went out there and I've got like $50 worth or 50 tickets, and we ended up winning, I could split it up among these guys. But what if I had online tools where I could connect us all, not just people at WBAP, but all the stations that are owned by Cumulus? Or how about I open it up to everybody in Texas? Or how about we just have everybody pay into the big same pool that's going to win, and we just all divide the money up by ourselves? That totally defeats the purpose of having a lottery. Am I interrupting something? Are you working on a Chevy Comet or something?
I'm sorry. I was putting dishes in the dishwasher. I didn't think you could hear it.
Matt, you can't wait a couple minutes till you're done with WBAP?
No, I'm done.
All right. No, hey, don't let me interrupt. All good questions, though, Matt. Anything else?
No, we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. Hey, those were legit questions. It happens. There's reasons for all those laws. And listen, coming up next, I'm going to go into a little more detail, but I'm going to give you one example of something that's going to be on the ballot for people that are going to vote in Frisco on Saturday. Now, you have a local election where you're at, but I'm going to talk about this Frisco theater. I want you to do sort of this Mad Libs thing where whatever big bond issue is going on in your town, big or small, it could be a school board, it could be a school bond, it could be a theater, it could be a museum, it could be some new bridge. I want you to think about the bond issue that you're going to be facing on Saturday when I talk about this theater in Frisco in the next segment, and put it in there and ask yourself the same questions about your bond in your town that I'm going to be bringing up about this just one example in a northern suburb here in DFW. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.